this is all over, there is a booth that we have in the main convention hall. So please feel free to come over and talk to us. We have tatami set up over there, so if you want to try it out, you want to give it a shot and play with some people, we do have a little bit of a space so that where you can try that out. So please feel free to come over and ask any questions that you have after the fact if we don't have time to get any questions. So before we start, first of all, with a raise of hands, how many people out there were familiar with Karuta before they came to this panel today? Quite a few people actually, okay, great. So I want to explain some of the basic rules and kind of the history behind the game while our two players up here set up, and kind of explain where this game came from. So Karuta is actually a very old game. It's existed in its various forms for centuries now. It's based off of, this version of Karuta, which is kind of the most mainstream version of Karuta, is based off of a collection of poems called the Hyakunin Isshu, which means 100 poems by 100 poets. What it is a collection of poems from Japanese history that were put together, one poem from some of the most influential poets and nobles in Japan. So within the Hyakunin Isshu Karuta family, there's a few different variations upon the rules. The one that you're going to be seeing here today is called Kyogi Karuta, which is a competitive form of Karuta. So it's played one-on-one, as you see, and these two players are going to be showing us how that works. It's also the form of Karuta that you see in Chihaya Furu. So let me go ahead and just kind of go over the basic rules. There are two types of cards that we use in Karuta. And so right over here, this is the reading card, and this is the grabbing card. If you look down on the maps in front of them, they have laid out in front of them a collection of the grabbing cards. Okay? So the reading card is made up of 3 parts. Right over here, this is the name of the poet that wrote the poem. You have the Kaminoku, which is the upper poem, and the Shimonoku, which is the lower poem. So every poem in Karuta follows a form of 7, 5, 7, 7, 7 syllables. The Kaminoku is the first 7, 5, 7, and then the Shimonoku is 7, 7 syllables. And then over here, this is the grabbing card, which they have in front of them, and this is just the final 7, 7 syllables that make up the Shimonoku, and that's all that's on the grabbing card. So how it works is a reciter will start to read a poem, and they're going to start right up here at the top with the Kaminoku and begin reading the poem. And then, as soon as the players down here recognize what poem is being read, they will reach out and grab the corresponding grabbing card. And so this game is all about speed. It's considered in Japan to actually be a competitive sport, not just a recreational game. And because speed is so important, it requires a lot of memorization, it requires a lot of mental skills, because you need to recognize the moment that you hear the first couple syllables of the upper poem, be able to quickly react and go for the grabbing card that corresponds to that. So let me go ahead and, one other thing that I wanted to introduce. In standard Kyogi Karuta, there are 100 poems, as I explained before, but only 50 of those cards are used. So each player gets 25 of those cards, and then they lay it down in each of their territories. So over here, we have this player's territory, and then over here we have the other player's territory, and they would each lay them down on their side. For the sake of time today, we are only going to go with 10 cards each. And so it'll be a little bit quicker that way. We'll be able to hopefully be able to get through the entire game. So let me go ahead and introduce our players. First of all, we have Mariko Robertson. Mariko has the title of Yodan within Karuta. Similar to karate or other things like that, there are formal rankings within Karuta. Yodan is considered to be a high-level player. Mariko played in Japan. She played in high school at Fujiko, which is one of the high schools that the school in Chihaya Furu was based around. And then our second player is Olivia Myrek. She is a high school student here in San Francisco. She's only been playing Karuta for a few years now, but she's been training really hard and has actually gotten incredibly good within these last couple of years. So it should be actually a really interesting game between the two of them. And once again, you'll be able to come and talk with them afterwards if you have any additional questions for them. So, are the players ready? Yeah? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started, and I will explain kind of some of the more unique rules as we go through the game, and hopefully it all makes sense. So those of you in the back, if you want to come forward, it'll be a lot more interesting if you can see what's happening down here on the map. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So as you first saw here, as you saw right here, the game always starts with the two players bowing to each other and greeting each other and then bowing to the reciter. So now the reciter is going to start the game by reading what's called the joka. Now this is an introductory poem, and it will not be one of the poems that they have down in front of them. The purpose of the joka is so that the players can get used to the sound and the rhythm of the reciter in order to be able to prepare for when the competitive cards actually begin. Let's go ahead and start.
何わずに昨夜この花冬ごもり今を春べと昨夜この花今を春べと昨夜杉の絵の岸による波夜さえや
So one of the first things that you'll probably notice is how quickly Olivia was able to go after that card. So in this situation, the card that was read was Sumi no Eno. So this one, it starts with the first syllable of that poem is su. And out of the 100 poems within the Hyakuni Ishu, there is only one poem that starts with the syllable su, which makes it so that Olivia, the moment that she hears su, she knows exactly which card to go after. So just by comparison, some other poems out there, there are 16 poems that begin with the syllable a, and out of those 16, there's 3 of them that begin with a, sa. So in those situations, you would have to wait until the second or the third or the fourth syllable before you know which grabbing card that you need to go after. So the syllables that determine which card you need to go after, those all are called kamariji, or unique syllables. So let's go ahead and move on to the next card.
夢の通いじ人目よくらん背を早み岩にせかるる滝川の
So this was another one unique syllable card that was just read right there. So Mariko was able to go after that immediately after she heard the poem begin to be read. Now you'll notice right now Mariko is handing one of her cards over to Olivia. And that's because in Karuta it's not about who takes the most cards, but who is able to clear their territory the quickest. So Mariko is trying to get rid of all the cards that are over here in her territory, and Olivia is trying to get rid of all these cards over here that are in her territory. So let's go ahead and go on to the next one.
割れても末に合わんとぞ小倉山峰のもみじは心あらば
Okay, so that time the card that was read was Murasame-kai. And that is not one of the cards that either player has in their territory right now. I mentioned before that each player in a formal competition would have 25 on each side, but the reciter still goes through and reads all 100 cards. And so when the card that's read is not in front of them, they don't take either one of the cards. So these cards which are not in front of either player is called a void card, or in Japanese, karafuda.
今ひとたびのみゆきばたなんもろともに哀れと燃え山桜
Okay, so this time Mariko actually reacted a little bit too fast. She heard mo as the syllable that was read out at the beginning of the poem. And unlike some of the other poems that we were reading earlier, there's actually multiple cards that have mo for their first syllable. So the one that was read this time was Moro Tomoni, and Mariko went after Momoshikiya. And so she heard that mo, went after the incorrect one. So what this is called, when you go after a void card, and you actually touch a card that's in your territory, that's called otetsuki. And there's a penalty when that happens. So Mariko will, Olivia will actually take one of her cards and give it over to Mariko in this situation. So Olivia loses one of her cards, and Mariko gains a card. So it's almost like as if you had lost 2 cards, because she has one less and she has one more right now. So that's otetsuki.
花より他に知る人もなし君がため春の乗り出て若菜摘む
Okay, so you might have noticed that Olivia used one of the more advanced strategies in the game right there. She didn't go for the card immediately. You might have noticed that her hand was kind of hovering over that card before she took it. This is because the card that was just read was Kimi ga tame ha. Now there are multiple cards, once again, that start with that phrase, Kimi ga tame. And she wanted to make sure that the card that she went after was the correct card, but she didn't want Mariko to take it. And so she hovers her hand over the top of that in order to block Mariko from being able to go after that. So that's called kakoite, or blocking hand. So that's one of the strategies that you will see as people play Karuta.
我が衣に雪は降りつつ桃敷や古きの牙の忍ぶにも
Okay, so if you're listening really carefully, you would have heard that the beginning of that poem started with mo. And as I mentioned before, there are 2 poems out there that start with the syllable mo. Since we'd already read one of them previously, which was a void card at that time, the moment that both players heard mo as the beginning of that, poem, they both knew that they had to go after that one remaining card that has mo. So up until now, as you probably guessed, we've kind of planned out which cards would be read. And that was so that I could explain the rules as we're going through it. But going forward, the players don't know which cards are going to be read. They're going to be in a random order, and you'll be able to see how the game is actually played. So they'll be listening, they have no idea which cards are going to be read next.
なおあまりある昔なりけり久方の光のどけき春の日に静心なく花の落ちる蘭この人松尾の裏の夕なぎに役やもしこの身も焦がれつつちはやぶる髪をも聞かず雑田川
So some of you may have recognized that last one. So that poem starts with Chihaya Furu, which is where they take the name for the popular anime manga. So in the manga, the main character's name is Chihaya, and so that card, which begins with Chihaya Furu, is her special card. It's the card that's that's her favorite card out of the 100. So that's where the title comes from. Anyone who was wondering for the manga and anime.
腹くれないに水くくるとはつくばねの峰折りをつる皆の川 己 恋ぞ積もりて淵となりぬる世の中よ道こそなけれ思いる山の奥にも鹿ぞなくなる由良野と渡る船人舵を耐え行方も知らぬ恋の道かな見せ場やな落ち間の天の袖田にも濡れりぞ濡れし色は変わらず忍ぶれど色にでにけり我が恋は物や思うと人のとまで紫の梅雨もまだぎぬ牧の葉に
Alright, so I'm just going to interject one more time. So the card that she just read right there, it starts with the phrase Murasame, and the name of our Karuta club is Murasame-kai. The reason why we selected that as the name is because the poem that begins with Murasame, it evokes imagery of the fog, and because we're located in San Francisco, which is obviously famous for the fog that comes in through, into the San Francisco Bay, that is the card which represents our club.
霧立ち上る秋の夕暮れ我が袖は潮いに見えぬ沖の石の人こそ知らねえ乾く間もなしよ込めて鳥の空では測るとも世に大阪の関は許さじ秋の田の狩り穂のようの苫をあらみ我が衣では梅雨に濡れつつ天津風雲の通いし吹き閉じよ乙女の姿しばしとどめんこれやこの行くも帰るも別れでは知るも 知らぬも大阪の関寂しさに宿を立ち入れて長船がいずこも同じ秋の夕暮れ花の色は移りにけりないたずらに我が身より降る眺めせしまに三好野の山の秋風さよ吹けてふるさとを寒く衣むつなり忘らるる身をば思わず誓いでし人の命の惜しくもあるかな八重むぐら茂れる宿の寂しきに人こそ見えね秋は秋にけり奥山に紅葉踏み分け鹿の声聞くときぞ秋は悲しきいにしえの奈良の都の八重桜今日ここの絵に匂いぬるかな恋すよ我が名はまだき立ちにけり
I just want to say a few things about the situation now. Okay, each player has only one card left. And this situation is often called Unmesen, like a fatal match. Because at this point, because they're both pretty good players, whoever's card's red is going to win pretty much, right? So who wins at this point is really, up to the fate. What comes depends on what the next card will be read. Okay, so do you read it? And by the way, I have no idea who's got which card.
人知れずこそ思い染めしか わびぬれば今と同じ何はなる
So thank you everyone for coming out, and once again, let's have a round of applause for our reader as well. So once again, if you have any questions about Karuta, feel free to come by our booth that we have over in the convention hall. If you want to learn how to play and you want to come join us sometime, please come by and talk with us. We'd love to have new people, and we'd love to teach new people how to play the game if you're interested. So once again, please come by the booth, come try it out for yourself, and thank you for coming today.